When I decided to go to medical school, it was a mission. I had to do well in medical school. When I joined the board, I have to do enough so that the board sees I have value and they want me to stay on the board with them. When I worked as a police officer, all these jobs, you know, it's another mission. And I look at it and say, okay, what are the risks, what are the benefits, what's the cost, what's the benefit, how much time do I have to put in, and what do I have to do to be the best at what I'm doing? That's all from the military. So think about the skills you have that others don't have when so few percentage of people actually serve in the military. You come out ahead of most people because you have that discipline. So I would say, tell your team members, don't forget those skills you have that separate you from the masses, because it really will give you a leg up on almost any position you're in.
Dr. Richard Carmona, a high school dropout, enlisted in the U.S. Army, trained as a Special Forces medic and weapons specialist, and became a combat-decorated Vietnam veteran. He went on to earn degrees with highest honor, served as the 17th U.S. Surgeon General, and is now the Vice Chairman of Canyon Ranch and a member of the Clorox Company Board of Directors. We had the opportunity to sit down with Dr. Carmona at the Hiring America and Clorox Symposium in Oakland, California.
So let's start by telling us a little bit about growing up in New York City.
Well, it was a challenge at times. My parents were immigrants, and I was the oldest of four. My mom's goal was simply to get one of her kids out of school. She only meant high school because nobody in the family had ever graduated from high school. We all failed her the first time. All of us dropped out of school. And for me, the salvation, emancipating event was going into the Army when I was 17. And you know, gave me a lot of discipline that I didn't have, taught me how to be a citizen, taught me about how to complete a mission. And so that changed my life.
And then you ended up being a decorated combat veteran. How did that feel?
So I went into the infantry, I went to jump school, I volunteered for Special Forces, and I made it, but then they told me, you can't stay because you're a high school dropout. And that forced me to get an equivalency diploma. I got a GED in the Army, then stayed in Special Forces, and you know, got to see the world and got promoted and had positions of responsibility, went to combat and saw the inequities of war and all those challenges. And so I really matured a great deal in just a few years.
How did that experience shape you both professionally and personally?
It really helped me to understand the responsibility of being a citizen in a democracy, that, you know, you take on lots of different missions. And as a young soldier, I did certain things. As I got more senior and took on the mission, wherever that mission happened to be, recognizing that you represent the United States of America in everything that you do. And so you mature with that, and you get to see different cultures, and you get to see different people. You know, by the time I was 21, I think I felt like I was about 40 with all of the experiences that I had, and yet it made me a better person.
And how did that help in your transition into the civilian workforce when you decided to make that transition?
Well, most of the jobs I've had in my whole life are based on the training I got in the military. So I was in Army Special Forces. I was a medical and a weapons specialist on a Special Forces team. But then as I went into the Reserve Forces and went to school, the only reason I got into college when I was, after return from my first combat tour, and my team was telling me, you know, you should go to college, but I knew I couldn't get in. What saved me was two high school counselors that had followed me even as I left, because when I dropped out of high school several times, they'd always saw potential in me I didn't see in myself. But the reason I got in, those counselors kept tracking me, and they didn't give up on me, and they called and found a junior college in the city that had open enrollment for combat veterans. Otherwise, I couldn't have gotten in. So none of us make it on our own. And on a team, like on our Special Forces team, we are all inextricably tied together. Our lives depend on each other in remote areas. And so there's no heroes on the team. Every mission is completed by the team, not by an individual.
Did you have a good role model early in your career?
I would say the best role model I had was my mom. She said the most important thing that she owned was her library card because it connected her to the world. And she'd go to the library every day and bring home books. She had amazing insight. She never gave up on her kids. She was all about dignity and discipline, as poor as we were. And so I would say she was probably my best mentor.
Did you ever encounter a situation where you felt like you had to break through the so-called glass ceiling in the workplace?
When you come into basic training and you get to your first assignment there, you meet a drill sergeant. That drill sergeant doesn't care what color you are, if you're rich or poor. But a couple of months later, you come out and you have a whole different view of the world. You're disciplined, you're focused, you know how to complete a mission, you understand your duty and obligation as a citizen. And so those skills then continue to move you forward. And so there's less of a glass ceiling, if you will, in the military because you continue to ascend based on your core competencies, your productivity, your leadership, and they teach you leadership in such a way that it's ingrained.
What advice would you have for a service member who's struggling with trying to figure out what their next step is?
So I think for any of those folks who are struggling, there's so many organizations. You know, the VFW is a great organization that helps our veterans. There's American Legion, there's Disabled American Veterans, you know, all of those. And almost all of us who have come through the military, you have teammates that you still keep in touch with. My Special Forces class, there's about 15 of us still above ground, and we're as close as we are today as we were decades ago because those bonds are, you know, when you serve in combat and you serve together, there's a brotherhood that's committed that if I needed something today, no matter where they are, they'd get on a plane and come to me, as I would do for them.
What advice would you have for veterans interested in transitioning into a job here at the Clorox Company?
It is a fantastic company. It is just a wonderful place to work. They're very sensitive to all of the things that are important in the world today. There's great opportunity to advance, and really it's all of the values and principles you've learned in the military. You get to come to a place like this in Clorox and continue to move and be a leader.
This was a pleasure for me. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Pleasure to see you. Thank you very much.